All right, all right. Welcome to the Deadman Horror Show. I'm your host, Mr. Deadman. And our guest here tonight is Candace Nola. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
I actually said that right. I actually said a name right.
Yep.
Wow, I don't. You probably haven't listened to the show. It really has very few listeners. But like the running gag is that I can never get any of the guest names right. So I mean, wow. There's one.
Well, I have listened to the show in the past, and it's a pretty easy name to say, and everybody automatically assumes it's a pen name, and I'm from New Orleans because Nola. And I'm like, nope, that's my real name. It has nothing to do with New Orleans.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool. I mean, I was thinking, should I start off like saying, "Here's Candace Owens" or something else? I'm just messing. No. But Candace Nola, how are you doing? Now, before we get into this show, we're going to. I do have a sponsor. I do have a little sponsor here. We need to put out here to get this. We're getting professional. Now, this show is a very professional show now.
All right.
Hey, this sponsor's for Midnight Gravediggers. Hey, do you happen to have someone or something in your trunk that needs to be buried? Do you have something in a large bag that is going to smell if not disposed of properly? Do you happen to be in a situation where you might have hit something while driving and no one knows? Then you need the service of Midnight Gravediggers. Just go to mgd.com, use promo code DHS2022. Okay, you got to do it now because we're getting close to the new year, okay? And that's how you can get your 10% off Midnight Gravediggers. You go to that website and be like, it's not working. It works when it needs to work, okay? All right? All right. So, with that said, let's now that we have our sponsor taken care of, Miss Candace Nola,
Sir.
who are you and what does your daddy do?
Who am I? Well, you just told everyone my name, so we'll start there. I'm an author. I am a publisher. I'm an editor. I'm a reviewer. I'm a horror nutball. And what does my daddy do? Well, my daddy doesn't do much anymore. He is in the ground. He passed away a couple years ago, but my father was a paranormal investigator, a Bigfoot hunter, and spent his entire life working in the steel mills. So,
Well, your dad did a lot. Your dad did some.
Cool.
I mean, he sounds like a hard worker and sounds like a good man. So, but you yourself, you sound extremely busy. Like you have a lot on your plate, which, like, wow. So not just a horror author, not just a horror a fanatic, but you write, you edit, and you're kind of like. It sounds like you're in a position where you're like maybe publishing others, right?
I am indeed. I have 2 anthologies out now under the brand that I have, and I just published a collection for my first author that isn't me.
Wow! Look at that! And how was
I have
that?
a day job.
Oh, well, a day job on top of that. So you have a lot of things you have to shuffle there. So what was it like publishing somebody else? What was it like for you?
A little bit nerve-wracking, but not overly so because I had the 2 anthologies under my belt, which are a whole lot more stressful because there's a whole lot of moving parts and different authors you have to work with. And in this last case, I was only working with one, so it was
Okay.
not quite as bad. So.
Okay. I mean, was it a weird transition from going from writing your own stuff and publishing your own and editing your own stuff from going from now to like I guess working for other authors?
Yeah.
No.
It was no, I actually I think I like to do that as much as I like to write my own stuff. So it was fine. Anything that has to do with words, I like, so it's all good.
Okay. Okay. And why horror? Like, why? What's the draw and fascination with horror? Because like you could probably be making even more money doing other things like writing romance. Not because you're a woman, but I mean, as a guy, I myself know that, you know, if you have some titles out there of a certain type under a pen name, you know, they're kind of nice. You know. So why horror?
Why horror? Well, my original answer is always I was raised on it. So, as I mentioned, my father was a paranormal investigator. So was
So you have it in your
well,
family there.
my mom and dad. Hmm.
So you kind of have it in your family. You kind of have you're kind of
Yeah.
exposed to like I guess the kind of creepy side of things.
Always. And I was raised on all the classic films and the old monster movies and the B movies. And we had one TV in the house, and it was you watched what dad watched, or you went outside, or you went and did something else. So he watched horror, or he watched sci-fi.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
What was his horror movie? What was the horror movie that that your dad watched?
He watched them all. Like he loved them all. But the one that really, I think, gave me the original thrill to where I knew that this was something I was gonna love was the original Thing. That
Wait.
movie scared the
When you
crap out of
say
me, and I was about 8.
when you say the original thing, you're not
Thing.
talking about
Yes.
you're talking about the black and
I
white
was,
one.
no, I was about 8. So what that would have been 1986,
Okay.
84.
So you're talking about the version that pretty much most people reference when they talk about the thing, the 1982
Yeah,
John
yeah,
Carpenter, right?
that one.
With
Yes,
Kurt
yes,
Russell. Yeah,
yes,
that
that one.
fantastic movie.
And
Fantastic
I
movie.
loved it, and it scared the crap out of me. And I had nightmares for weeks, and I was only about 8. And then I can honestly say that since that time, I probably have seen it 100 times.
Oh yeah, it's a good movie to rewatch. And I found
Oh
this
yeah,
too. Like when you rewatch it,
definitely.
there's little things that you might have missed. Um,
Every time.
it's kind of like the big mystery at the end too is kind of like, well, between Childs, played by Keith David, and Kurt Russell, which one of them is really the thing? And there's so many theories out there that Kurt Russell himself could actually be infected. He could actually
Right,
be the thing. He doesn't even know
right.
it. A lot of cool theories that dive into it. There's plenty of videos out there. I had fun watching them. Good stuff. Um, yeah, good movie, good movie. So that's how you got your dive into horror. You kind of already your family's into paranormal stuff. We'll talk about that here definitely. But now you as a horror author, you have Bishop is a title that I looked at, and what I saw from the cover is it looks like it is a book about a were beast, a were bear. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So what do you know about were bears? Because we're not talking about werewolves. You're like werewolves are done and overplayed.
Werewolves. What do I know about them? What I made
Yeah.
up, of course.
Well,
So I wanted to do a different twist on the traditional werewolf or the shapeshifter lore, if you will. And the werebear idea came to me from a friend of mine who the idea was actually his. And I knew that if I read enough of the lore, I would find enough connections to the shapeshifters and why certain Indian tribes could change into certain types.
okay.
Werewolf just happened to come up mostly in the horror industry just because, I mean, you can't get much scarier than a werewolf. But hundreds of years before that, there have always been legends of the Native American tribes that could shapeshift depending on what tribe they were with and their bloodline and what spirit animal that they had selected as their guide.
Okay.
And I came along a couple of stories to where the bloodlines would change based on their ancestors,
Okay.
whatever that chief had changed into. And in the character that I used, the tribe he was from, they changed into a bear,
A bear. Ooh.
a massive Kodiak bear. And that's just what they changed into.
Yeah.
But when I don't want to give too much of it away, but there's a reason why he never, there's a reason why he changed to that and wasn't able to change into anything else. Because in that particular tribe, as they grow and are taught how to call upon their own spirit guide, they are capable of changing into something of their own choosing, but there's a reason why he was never taught that.
Okay.
So
So, so,
he's
so
a
you did
bear.
you did some research here. It wasn't just like, oh, it was like he was bitten by a bear and then the bear was infected and now he turns into a
No, no,
werebear.
no.
It was like
No,
you went
no.
into the lore of like skinwalkers of a
Mhm.
Native American.
Exactly.
I guess would it be safe to say traditions or Native American lore or
Native American lore, rituals,
okay,
customs, traditions. I'm actually half Native American as well, so
okay.
I'm
So
a mixed race,
so
and
so you
that's always been,
so you know about
yeah.
skinwalkers.
Mhm.
Wow. Oh, what do you know about skinwalkers, Candace?
I mean, I don't have any personal experience because I'm also adopted, but I am familiar with the lore and the legends and stuff like that, but I don't have
Uh-huh.
any personal experience or anything yet. I would
Okay.
like to, but
Now the skinwalker thing is very fascinating. So when so the bishop or the character the werebear in this book,
mm,
is he able to? He has a human form too, and he kind of shifts back and forth, or is he permanently that werebear?
he can change.
He change. Okay.
He
All right.
can go, he is a full man and he can go to a full bear
Okay.
and in the middle.
All right. And is it something that causes like a full moon, or is it just kind of like it just comes up whenever it does?
He can change whenever he needs to. So he calls upon his ancestors' bloodline within him to bring on the change. So
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. So yeah, I like all the research you did on this. It's really cool. You kind of you don't have to settle for like I guess the campy reason to explain it all. It kind of has some like deep lore there. Kind of cool. Now, a story like this, and I read the preview, and I want to definitely purchase a copy of this tonight. In the chat, this isn't this isn't pre-recorded. If you have questions for Candace or related to skinwalkers or whatever, feel free to ask in the chat. Okay. But I was reading the preview, and I have to say, and I'm not trying to like kiss your ass or anything, but it grabbed my attention immediately. Like the prologue within like the first paragraph, like the second paragraph in, it was like instantly you already have something insane happening. You already have like tremendous loss happening, and it was told in a way that just felt so real. Like I was there, and I witnessed like the family get mauled essentially.
yeah,
That's really good stuff. Um,
thanks.
I take it from that this book has a lot of pretty extreme stuff. Would that be safe to say?
Mm, I wouldn't say extreme.
Okay, so the
This
violence is not
one,
extreme.
no, this one is definitely more of a mainstream horror.
Mainstream
It can
horror.
be read
Okay,
by anyone from like 12 up. Like it's not, I don't think it, well, there's a couple parts where some younger people may have a nightmare too, but it's not gratuitous, graphic
mm-hmm.
gore. There's definitely some violence in it, but
Right.
it's there for a reason, and the violence is well played out. And the way it's written, it more or less unfolds like an action film.
Okay.
So, but it has no more extreme than American Werewolf in London or any of those.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I don't think this one would qualify as like extreme, though. It's a lot more
So
mainstream than.
so not extreme. It's mainstream sort of horror, but there are some brutal moments in it.
Yeah,
Some real intense
very much
moments.
so. Yeah.
Definitely there. Okay. Other than the prologue, are there some scenes, some situations that you could tease us with, in case for those listening that might be on the fence about this book, about Bishop?
Oh, well. Well, if you like survival stories, this is definitely one of those. Which I like, and the whole thing is set out in the woods, so your chances are already slim to none. It's set in the middle of a blizzard in Alaska, so again, your chances are slim to none. And you have a werebear in there that you know of, so what is his purpose, right? So there's something else in there that he needs to take care of.
Right.
He's not the only monster in the book.
Oh. Okay. Oh, is there
Yeah.
like a so there's other could be other cryptids in this book, like a Bigfoot, like a Yeti,
There's a blood feud in the
a
book.
blood feud.
Yes, there is something that he needs to confront before it can get to our missing teenager in the book
Okay.
that he has a feud with.
Okay.
So it comes down
Okay.
to kill or
If I
be
guess it
killed.
right, you're gonna have to say you just let me know, okay? All right. You're probably not gonna tell me, but I'm gonna put some wild guess out there, okay? I get 3 chances. You're cool with that? 3 chances, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Um.
Do you want me to tell you if you're right?
Yeah. Yeah. Just tell me
Okay.
if I'm right. If I'm getting
Okay.
close and all that. Is it this werebear? Is he fighting? Does he have a blood feud with Bigfoot, with a Yeti?
No.
Okay, all right. Okay, is the blood feud with it's the story set place in Alaska? What else could be in Alaska? Are you sure it's not the abominable snowman? Like the abominable like.
Not the bubbles.
No? Okay, how about this? Have you ever seen the horror movie Jack Frost with the little cursed snowman that like goes into people's homes and tries to murder them? What about that? Is that this blood feud? No? Oh, okay.
Not
No.
yeah.
Well, I tried.
Oh,
I tried.
yeah, that might have been fun.
It's a lizard person, isn't it? Somehow the lizard person is able to survive Alaska. That was four tries. Okay. All right, we're good. But
But the other is also has very heavy roots in lore. So
oh,
ancient lore, something as old as he is, as old as his tribe, and more. So yeah, it's a very ancient feud there. So
okay. Well, I put my guesses out there. I'm just gonna have to figure it out. But we didn't even get into we got a little bit of what the book is about, the bear, the beast. But what is the story really about, Bishop?
Bishop. Well, I mean, he is our main character in the book, but the story is about a man named Troy who gets a phone call that his sister and his niece have gone missing up in Alaska. They went there on an extreme adventure camping trip because his niece wants to someday climb Mount Everest. So her and her mother are very much into extreme outdoor sports and hiking and climbing and being out in the snow and all of that. So of course he makes the trip from Washington up to Alaska. He's a very determined man. He's very much used to having his own way, and his sister and his niece is all he has left. his mom and dad are not there anymore. It's just them. And he wants to join the search. He wants to get answers. And once he goes up there, he learns that one of the top experts in the area that would be the most likely one to help him is a very reclusive man that is not very sociable, not very friendly at all, and even better than that, no one knows where he is or where he can be found. That's Bishop. Of course, Troy's like, well, I need Bishop, obviously, because I want the best. I need him, and if he's going to be my best hope, then that's who I want. So, of course, they spend some time trying to find him to no avail. And, but of course, he does enter the story because it's Bishop. And it goes on from there to see if he can help Troy find his niece and his sister before this other creature does.
And that is a good story right there. A race of time, race to save her before this other creature, this other beast, whatever it is, gets his claws on her, consumes her.
Right. So you have a race against time, and you have a race against weather, the elements.
Yeah, that was going to ask you too. That being that this book is set in Alaska, which is a very severe climate environment, it looks nice. You know, people say Alaska is beautiful, and I suppose they're right. But like, I don't like the cold. I don't really like snow that much. I'll just take the word for it. You know.
Same.
I mean, it's like if you're lost in Alaska, if you're on the run, like you're trapped out in the wilderness. Good luck anyone helping you. Like, you're probably going to die before anyone knows that you're even lost. Before they even put out a search party, right?
Right.
I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, Alaska's one of those places where if you wanted to murder a lot of people, be a serial killer, and dump bodies, Alaska would be the place to do it. And I say this because there's a serial killer who did that, and he did it quite a while. He just slipped up because one ran away, as it always happens. The Butcher Baker. You know about the Butcher Baker? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, the Butcher Baker. He was insane. Really vile, ruthless. And Alaska was like his turf.
Right.
It's so brutal, Candace. Like you can get lost and just die to the environment.
And then you have like nighttime for like 6 months in certain parts.
Yeah, it's not a good place to be. Why did they say Alaska's beautiful? I don't understand. I don't get it.
Because it is. It's wild. You have just miles and miles and miles of just untouched land, and you have so many different landscapes and environments, and you have the mountains, you have the coast right there, you have the sea, you have the rainforest environment happening, you have just a little bit of everything is up there, and it is a really beautiful place, but it's harsh. It's definitely not for the weak, the faint-hearted.
I mean, I wouldn't think so. It seems like a place where you'd have to be really hardened to survive there. I mean, you can't be some runaway. Like,
right.
It's just. I mean, is that the reason why you chose Alaska? Were you looking for an environment that was like harsh and severe, where the wilderness itself is kind of like The Thing? You know, The Thing is set in Antarctica, so it's like that environment there, you're isolated and you're on your own, and the environment is going to kill you, you're going to die there.
That was partly it. But I needed a location too where the lore would make sense. So the lore behind our main character in the book makes sense because there are plenty of indigenous tribes that are still there. And the lore for what he goes up against is also found nearby in the area to where it would be plausible that it could be found there. Okay. So I needed somewhere where the lore would make sense, but where the environment would be every bit as deadly as what the other entity is. So.
Right. Well, it's definitely a severe environment. You chose the environment right. Do you know about the Alaska Triangle? This is something I've discovered right before doing this stream. It's insane. I didn't know this was a thing, but apparently, I guess people disappear quite a bit in Alaska. I mean, it's, I guess, it's a remote area famous for like alien abductions, Bigfoot sightings, paranormal.
You know what? I knew that, and I stumbled across some information on that when I was doing the research as well. But you know what? Now that you mentioned that, also, wasn't Paranormal Activity 2 or 3 filmed there, and that was based on real events because the woman's daughter went missing, and there were 6 or 8 people in that town in Alaska that went missing too while she was up there as it was a woman who was a psychiatrist up there, and Paranormal 2 or 3 was based on her actual story. I think.
I don't remember that. Hold on.
Definitely one of the Paranormal Activity movies.
What? You tell me that one of the Paranormal Activity movies actually had a connection to something?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yep.
I gotta. I mean, chat, do you know? I mean, chat asked me some things. They kind of like bust my balls a little bit, and I kind of expect them to, want them to. Do you know about a horror movie? I don't know, like a space horror movie with a watermelon. I don't know what the melon. I'm not sure what they're talking about. I don't know.
Space horror movie?
I don't know. Of 1992. I don't know what they're talking about there.
What's the name of it?
Real? Like, what are we talking about? I mean, I know. I before doing this, we talked about a Basket Case, which is an insane movie.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, Basket Case is incredible. And that was like what in Basket Case, the scene that comes to mind. I don't know about for you, but for me, it is the scene where the Basket Case monster is getting. He's eating that girl out, isn't he? He's eating the lady out.
He's getting frisky, yeah.
He's getting frisky, man. He's getting laid. Man.
He's an evil little bastard. Like
he's an evil little bastard, but I mean, there's something charming about him. Has to be. I mean, he got married, right?
Did, yeah. Found the bride.
Yeah, I mean, if a basket creature, a basket monster, like in Basket Case, can get married, then. You know, those, I guess, incel types that are like, oh, I'm so ugly. I'm not a Chad. I can never get laid. What are you doing, man? Just try it. Okay? You know?
Well, maybe they should jump in a basket and then go from there.
Yeah. Become a basket monster. Become a basket monster. Oh, man. Okay. That was just silly. But going back to Alaska stuff, there's something I want to... yeah, that's right. The Alaskan Triangle. You mentioned the Paranormal Activity thing. I'm not sure about that. Definitely would love to be fact checked on that. You could possibly be right there. It's just Alaska is a place where there's a lot of disappearances. It is crazy how easy it is for people to just disappear. I wrote something here. I'm not sure how accurate this is. It's estimated like 16,000 people, including airplane passengers, hikers, locals, tourists, have disappeared within the Alaska Triangle since 1988. That's quite a bit there. It seems pretty easy to just disappear. Yeah. You know, with that environment and how harsh it is. Do you think I would stand a chance?
I wouldn't stand a chance.
Well, that was my next question. If we were together, if you and I were a survival team, okay? We're out there, okay? It's Survivor, like extreme, okay? And we have to survive. Like, are we surviving? Like, what are we doing, Candace? What are we doing?
I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, yeah, you would have a chance if you were with me. Yeah.
Oh, wait. What skills do you have? What's your skill set?
My father was a hunter, a hiker, very much outdoors man. I was raised in the woods. I was raised hiking and fishing, and I can skin a deer. I can cut meat up. I can start a fire. I can cut wood. I know how to stay warm from the elements. I know how to build a shelter out of snow and pine branches. And That's where a lot of the survival tips in the book itself come from because I made the 14-year-old. She's a bit of a survival, um, I won't say expert yet, but that's kind of her thing. And a lot of what I know how to do that my father taught me, I put into the book. And she has this little fascination with how to survive in the elements. So there's a lot of those little things in there that I worked into her character in the book, which is why she survives probably a lot longer than than any other 14-year-old would. So.
So you
Had to give
you
her
have skills. You have skills, and you know what you're talking about when you're writing about those skills. So it sounds like you would be the alpha, is what I'm hearing, Candace. You would be the alpha. I would be the
Probably
one
not.
who stays at camp, takes care of things. Okay.
Yeah, you can touch water.
All right. Yeah, I'll find fresh water for us. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll make sure things are nice at home. You know, nice at the campsite. Okay, and you do all the heavy hunting and all that stuff.
Okay, fish and hunting
Okay.
and stuff.
I'll so we can survive. All right.
Yeah.
All right. I like this. I
I don't
like
know
this
if we're
idea.
gonna survive the whole time, but we're certainly not gonna die the first night or two.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, at least survive like 3 nights, long enough to see a
At least
cryptid.
we can. Yeah.
Long enough to see
Yeah.
a cryptid. I think if we're gonna find a cryptid anywhere, like Bigfoot or like a Yeti, I think it would be Alaska. What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think you can find a lot of things out there, but I would think if you're gonna go hunt anything of that type, your best chance would be somewhere that's as wild as it can be. I don't think I'm gonna find one walking, downtown Pittsburgh.
I mean, maybe that's a good camp. Oh, maybe it's a Yeti, a Bigfoot walking downtown Pittsburgh, like dressed as like in a Halloween costume or something. You know, maybe he has dressed as Michael Myers or whatever. I mean, you wouldn't even know. It'd be a disguise, but probably not like.
Be one hell of a big Michael Myers.
Yeah, it'd be really convincing. You're like, oh crap, damn, dude, he's jacked now. What happened? It'd be like the Rob Zombie Michael Myers. That's what it'd be. All right, damn. Hey, you've seen that movie, right? Everyone's seen that movie, the Rob Zombie Halloween remake. It's like, how did that? I'm just going to say this. This is going to sound kind of crass, Candace, but how did that kind of pudgy little kid become so freaking jacked on a diet of, what they would feed you in a psych ward, which would not be much.
Maybe a combination of meds and wanting to throw people through a wall, and maybe he just lifted his cot a whole bunch of times in the room, or I don't know. I
That's
don't
crazy,
know
right?
because, yeah,
Like that's one of
yeah.
those things. I'm thinking back on, there's certain horror movies, certain things where like, how does that make any sense? How did he get so jacked? How did he become such a freaking
This comes out
monster?
like fit and just in shape and
Yeah.
just muscle bound.
Like, if you ever worked at a psych facility or seen what they feed you, it's scraps. I was in a facility for like 5 years. Okay, it's pretty much, ham and cheese sandwich, some sides. It's no protein, hardly any protein.
Yeah.
So it's horrible.
Very soft foods.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what other cryptids do you think would find? Because it sounds like you believe in cryptids. Like you think they are real.
I think it can be, yeah.
Mm.
What else would we find in Alaska? I don't know. I think you
We could
find
venture
anything.
out if we're gonna do we're hunting together, looking for
A Yeti or the abominable
Yeti, abominable snowman. We could look for. What about Mothman? You think we'd find a Mothman?
Nah, I don't know if we would find a Mothman there. According to his lore, though, he tends to be around warmer places.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if we would actually find a sort of Mothman type creature, but we might find a troll.
A troll, definitely a troll. We would see a troll, and it would be horrible. I don't think we would survive that.
No,
You might
might.
survive that.
I might.
Yeah, but not me. If anything, I would try to see if I could become the troll's bitch, and
Mm.
maybe I can
Sure
comfort
about
him.
that?
Maybe the
Because they're
troll.
like mountain size. So I don't think he'd last long as his bitch. I don't, because they're like mountain size. So one night of comfort, and yeah, I don't, you'd be no more.
That's it. I'm gonna
You would,
I'm gonna need
oh,
some. I'm gonna need some massive surgery. Oh my god, it's good. Oh, I'm dead.
massive.
I'm dead. I just
Yeah, one way or the other. One way or the other. You're not lasting long that night.
no, not at all, not at all. Oh, but yeah, cryptids is something that always fascinated me. It's like this idea that these strange creatures that kind of look like something we're familiar with, but they're different, could exist. I think so, because like we haven't seen everything. I don't think we've seen everything, and there's different mutations of dogs and things, basic stuff that, yeah, maybe a chupacabra does exist. Maybe there's a dog out there that sucks blood from a goat.
Might be.
Maybe. What about
All kinds of things out there, I think.
yeah?
Yeah. I just try to keep an open mind. Just because the world is gigantic. Like, there's no way we know everything that is out there, and we haven't explored every single surface, nook and cranny and cave and volcano and underground system or ocean or lake. Like, you can't honestly say that we know absolutely everything that lives on the earth, let alone in the ocean.
Right. I mean, we still have much more of ocean depth to explore. Like, we don't even, like, what was it? We know more about space than we do about our own oceans. It's crazy.
Right?
And people will be quick in the comments or whenever we talk about this stuff to be like, oh, but we have satellites, we can see everything. It's like not enforced, man. Like, do you understand that satellite imagery can't penetrate through freaking trees? Okay,
Right.
all right, like thick trees, like the wilderness that you would imagine in like a rainforest, thick forest, Alaska. Yeah.
Right. Underground cave systems, like they can't see down in there.
Yeah. I guess I think it can somehow, but it's like, okay, guy, you play too many video games. You watch a lot of sci-fi stuff. You okay? We're not doing that. We don't have that stuff. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. The idea that there's some weird, strange, outlying creatures is definitely real. I think so. I mean, possibility. One other thing here about the cryptid topic is, do you have a favorite cryptid?
Do I have a favorite? I don't think I've ever been asked that one before.
I mean, your dad was a Bigfoot hunter.
Oh yeah, huge. I would say that one's probably my favorite legend, I think. Probably because I grew up listening to tales of Bigfoot and stories about Bigfoot and all of that, but I am rather partial to the Mothman and the Goat Man or the Goat Men, I believe, because there's more than one of those. I think those are fascinating and bizarre creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose Bigfoot would have to be my favorite just because of my dad and all the stories, and the man could tell you some campfire tales to be sure. So
I mean, those would be some good tales to hear. I mean, there's what you mentioned, there were pretty good examples of cryptids. I have to say the Mothman is really good. I mean, that seems to be a favorite. When people see the Mothman, something bad is about to happen. The Goat Man's interesting because the Goat Man's something that like even ancient civilizations have referenced the Goat Man in various ways. I mean, so maybe it could be real. Oh,
I think it is.
Now, being that your dad was in paranormal stuff and your family was in paranormal stuff, what do you know about shadow people, Candace?
Shadow people.
Let's get into the shadows.
I know they're real.
Okay, wait,
Um,
Now you're talking to a skeptic here, who had a short on this channel that it was actually kind of, it got a lot of views for a short, and
okay.
I always thought that shadow people was like tied to like, well, let me put it this way: if you see shadow people, you might be using crystal meth. Is that true? Like, is it connected with that? Like, do I have to use meth to see shadow people? Is what I'm asking you, Candace.
Nope.
No, so I could see shadow people without using crystal meth. Okay. How?
So, where do you live? State?
Texas. Great state of Texas. I think shadow people are allowed here.
Yeah. If you go to, if you really want to see one and become, join me in this and not be a skeptic, you should travel up to Waverly Hills. I believe it's in Kentucky.
Yes. Yeah, that's where the hospital was at, right?
Waverly Hills. Yes, sir. Waverly Hills. You will see them everywhere. Everywhere. It's not a trick of light. It's not a special effect. It's not shadows moving from outside trees and interference. You will see people walking back and forth in the hallways, up and down the hallways, out in front of you. You will see them. Men, women, children, you will see them everywhere. Every floor, they're there. Multiple occurrences documented. Almost every visitor there on an overnight tour has seen them. Overnight investigations have been there. Paranormal investigations of all kinds on TV and otherwise have been there. There are multiple pictures of them there. My parents were there. My daughter were there. They've seen all of them. I have seen them before, but I wasn't at the Waverly Hills investigation. When I was with them, we went to an investigation up here. There's a place called Newcastle, and there was an old asylum there. I forget the Hillcrest Manor, I believe was the name of it. And it was a work home for a long time, like the poor, or a poorhouse as it was called back then. It was an asylum for a long time, and then it changed hands again and became a nursing home at some point. So it's been there about 200 years, and it has a long history of people that have died, both by natural causes and mysteriously, and several murders and things have happened over the years. And we were there, and we were locked in. It was just us. It was my mom and dad. It was me. It was my oldest, who I believe was, I could be lying. I'm not lying, but I could be wrong on her age. I think she was like 23 at the time when we went. And we were the only group there. We were locked in for the night, and we were at opposite ends of this hallway. Pitch black, no lights on at all. It was the middle of the night. It was about 3 in the morning. And we are in a residential hall. So up and down the hallway, you have rooms. You have your little rooms on each side. And at the far end of the hall was a lounge room. So it spread the length of the unit on that side. And there were some couches and things back there. There were some windows back there. And then the opposite end had the same. But I was standing in the doorway of one of the rooms, and we were watching the hallway. My father had a laser grid. Okay. I don't know if you've seen one of them in use, but you expand it, and it's this little small light, and you can expand it on the end, and it'll set up a laser grid. It's all green, and it looks like the squares, and it's a whole grid that aims down the hallway. So when you see something walking past it, it'll break up that light. So we were standing there just watching the grid, and we were all there. And there they were, just walking back and forth. And after a while, like we had been in there for a long time, so your eyes adjust because there's very faint light, so your eyes adjust. And you can absolutely see them when they walk back and forth. And there were quite a few walking from one room across the hallway into the other room. They would come out of one room and walk down the hallway into the lounge, and they'd go around the bend, and then you'd see some more coming up. And we were the only four people in the entire place this night. There was nobody else there, not even the staff. There was not any staff. There's a caretaker that lives in a not a connected unit, but there's a little house next to it where they live. But we were the only four people in this room, in this place that night. There were multiples. And then another fun fact, during this same time while we were standing there watching the laser grid,
Hmm.
I'm standing in the doorway again, just like, you see this one here. So I'm standing there and I'm leaning against a frame because it's 3 in the morning and I'm like tired. And behind me, from the room behind me, I hear footsteps. And I'm not moving because I'm trying not to freak out because, I mean, this is what we're here for, right? And I know the room was empty because I did check the room out. I did have my flashlight. There's nobody in this room, but I hear footsteps. And then there's a presence beside me right here. A very large man, breathing in my ear, like breathing, heavy breathing in my ear. And
Whoa.
then just, I could feel the person there, and I'm just standing there. I was like, okay. And I'm just waiting to see what was going to happen because at that point I was like, well, I don't want to move because this is cool, but I'm terrified, but this is cool, but I'm terrified. And his presence is just there. And then I hear the footsteps again, and it went out of the room and down the hallway, and it broke up that light. And then, yeah, it went on, and
Oh, like you weren't worried that it was gonna like hurt you in any way?
yeah, yeah.
Do you do you know of any situations
Later
where
on, immediately after I left the room and I went down to where my mother was.
yeah? Do you, are you aware of any situations where a ghost or a shadow person has harmed somebody?
There are stories, and my mom and dad definitely had some stories. There are evil entities out there. There are evil spirits out there. There are spirits that will try to hurt you, that will try to cause you harm because the person they were in life is basically the person they are in their afterlife. They're angry, they're very violent, they're mean, they try to do things to hurt you, but the truth of the matter is the vast majority can't generate the energy to harm you. You may feel a heavy uh pre- presence, like
Okay.
heaviness. It can drain you like mentally. Like you'll all of a sudden feel like overwhelming depression or anger or sadness, fatigue. Like they can be very mentally, they can wear you down like that. Only the very strongest ones are able to like pick up small things, maybe throw them at you or cause things to fall off the walls, like different things like that. But these aren't usually things that can happen
Okay.
consistently because it takes a lot of energy.
So I got a couple
So.
questions here about the story you told me about the grid thing. Like now, how do we know that like it was figures moving back and forth and not something else like some sort of
You can
uh,
see them. Your
yeah,
eyes adjust. You can fully see the outline of a man or a woman. You can see arms and legs and heads and you know.
and like
It's,
when you say see them, like how clearly are they? Like do you have to squint to see them? Are they kind of
they're,
faint? Like what are we talking about here?
they're clear. So imagine if you were walking down a tart hallway
Okay.
and the one room at the far end has a light in it, right? So you're in the dark hallway and then you see a person walk past the lighted part. You wouldn't be able to see them plain as day because you're too far away, but in the dark hallway where you are, you can plainly see their outline, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they look like.
Interesting. So,
Mhm.
in what is a shadow person really? I mean, is it
Spirit,
a spirit?
energy.
Okay. And when you say spirit, I mean, what does that mean? Is that like a soul? Is that just
Person that doesn't know that they've died.
okay?
Stuck here.
What?
They either don't know they've died, they don't want to accept that they've died, they don't want to move on, they're not ready to move on. They're just here. They're still here going about their routine.
And I asked this because like I've been intrigued by this topic for a good while. I used to dabble in a lot of the kind of, I guess some may say kind of fringe and weird stuff like Wiccan stuff, and I kind of was kind of aware of spirits and things like that, but I never actually saw one. I tried many ways to channel them, to bring them to me. It just never really happened.
You can't call them.
And I wonder is it something like in your bloodline that helps you see them? Is there like is there a reason why certain people can't see them at all? Like that's what I'm getting at.
Well, would depend on where you are. Is there a reason why there would be a shadow person where you are? So, are you in a haunted house? Did somebody pass away there recently, violently, anytime in the past? Maybe tra tragically. Not everyone who passes away that becomes a shadow person or an entity or evil spirit or whatever, they don't all have to die in a horrible way, but it's usually a violent death or something very sad, like a child who suddenly dies and wasn't ready to die and didn't know they were going to die, or things like that. Like those tend to be the ones who don't know they're dead, don't know how to move on, aren't ready to move on. So it all depends on where you are. Like, what type of history does that location have? How
Mm.
recent was, how recently did that person die?
Okay.
Um,
I was
how willing are you to accept what you may not want to accept?
well, yeah. That's what I was
Because,
gonna. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Like, have you ever found yourself in situations where you see a shadow person, but someone around you does not see it?
oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Because I'm kind of curious about like why they wouldn't be able to see it. If it's because they're not willing to accept it, or if there's something like they
They're
just
not
cannot
willing.
see it at all. Like maybe some like physical attribute where they just cannot see it.
They can see them, but they tell themselves it was a trick of the light. It was a shadow from
Yeah.
outside. It was this. It was that. It was, the moon passing through a cloud passing
Hmm.
over the moon. It
I kind
was
of I kind of
they
wonder
just
about that,
refused to
Candace. And I'll
accept
tell
the
you what,
things.
because not all with our vision, not everyone sees color the same way. Not everyone sees the same way. Period. Right.
That too.
There's different little things that happen. People need glasses to correct their vision. So would it be possible? Not only is it that they just can't accept it, but they just cannot even see it at all. Is that a
Oh
possibility too?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you have those people that are colorblind. They don't have good vision. They can't pick up on it as clearly as others. There can be a whole host of reasons why. Generally speaking, though, we're taught that those things do not exist, right? So
Yeah.
let me ask you this, since we're on the subject of this. Have you ever been around a baby, an infant who just stares at a light and smiles, or stares heavily at one section of the room, corner of the room, when they're just smiling and waving and talking and babbling? There's nothing
I've
there.
heard stories
There's
like that.
nothing
My kids have
there.
not done that. That
Or
I
a
know of.
for a small child that's like 3 or 4 or 5, or they say, or the imaginary friend, oh, my imaginary friend said so and so. But yeah, if you observe them, they're watching something in the corner of the room, or they're like actively talking to something
Mm,
that only they can see, and we just laugh it off as, oh, they have an imaginary friend. No, it's because when we're young like that, we're not yet taught that those things don't exist.
interesting.
So it's not until we start telling our adults that, hey, I see, do you see that? Do you see that? And then we kind of laugh them off and we're like, oh, you're cute. You got an imaginary friend. And then, like, as kids, we're taught that, oh, they don't see that, or that's not okay, or that's not acceptable. So we learn how to turn that sense off. There's a lot of theories out there that we are all born with a little bit of ESP, a little bit of telepathy, if you will. We're all born somewhat sensitive to the spirit world itself because we literally just came out of it, right? So we're taught as kids that, that's not okay, that's not acceptable, that's not real, because adults can no longer see it because they themselves were also taught and have grown out of that. We don't see it, we don't acknowledge it, we don't recognize it, it's no longer there.
Hmm.
So it's not as obvious anymore the older we are, unless you continue to be open-minded, or unless you do happen to be more sensitive to the energy around you, the spirit world,
Yeah.
more open to what you're really experiencing.
From what you said, I definitely agree that some people are definitely a lot more sensitive to it than others. I don't think I'm sensitive to it, but I've met people who are. I've told this story before, just kind of personal in a way, but I had this girlfriend at the time, and I was at my house. Parents were gone, and you guess you kind of have an idea what was going on, right? Um, uh, Active in my room, so to speak. The door was wide open, and in the middle of it, she like freaked out. She panicked. I was like, what's going on?" She was like, "There's someone watching us," and she legit reacted as if like my dad had come home or my parents have come home and like caught us in the act, But no, there was no one there. There was no one home. There was like no one in the doorway. I'm like, there's no one there.
So
She's like, no, 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 no. There's someone right there. He's watching us. I'm like looking. I was like, I mean, do you want him to join? I don't see anything. It was kind of mean what I said. She didn't like that. So I was just like, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see it. But clearly she did, and she reacted in a way that was like, it was like very convincing that something was a little strange. And to this day, I still look at that and wonder, what did she see? What happened there? She tended to be a little bit more sensitive to seeing things and like that too. So now, do you think some people may say as a rebuttal to this, all this that we're talking about could it just be our mind playing tricks on us or on people when they see shadow people?
Um, you can go with that if you want, if it makes you feel better. But is that my answer? Am I gonna accept that? No. Because I happen to know that they're real. I happen to know that there are other things out there that exist beyond what most people are willing to accept. Because I was raised around it, I grew up with it. I have multiple experiences with the actual spirit world, and I'm not afraid of it anymore. I know how to go about it. I know the proper things to do if you want to go on a paranormal investigation, if you will. So certain things cannot attach themselves to you and attack you or follow you home and different things. There are things that you need to do to protect yourself against the ones that you don't want to interact with. But I also know that not everyone is able to accept it or want to know about it, or they're just going to laugh it off, and that's fine. I don't judge anyone. I just know what I have seen and what I have experienced and what my family has experienced.
Okay.
And I have multiple accounts and years of things, I guess you could say.
And
And
you shared a very personal story before we went live about this. Do you care to share that here?
can
It is this is the reason why. I mean, this convinced me that shadow people do exist. I just haven't seen them. And on that topic, I wonder if like something is like I shouldn't see them. You know, I'll get more about that. I'll get more into that after you tell your story.
So, why am I so convinced that all this is real and that spirits exist? All right, so personal story here, for all of you who might be listening out there. When I was 24-ish in 1991, no, 1999, Jesus, 1999. August 25th, my brother died violently. And without going into the details of all of that, that very same night, we were at my mom and dad's and going through, the motions and things like you will, and everybody is kind of just in shock and all of that. And it was about 10 o'clock at night. I'm wide awake. Everyone else is wide awake because, of course, no one is ready to go to sleep. But what else are you going to do? It's like
Right.
you got to try to deal. So I'm in my room, my old childhood room, which was weird. And my mom and dad had, we had, at the time, there was carpeting on the floor, almost like a shag carpeting, the kind you can
The
kind of
70s
hear
shag.
when you walk across it. Yeah, right. And the door to this room it fit so tightly against the floor that every time it opened, you could hear it kind of slide across it and stuff. And it had been that way ever since I was little. So I'm in my room, I'm laying on the bed, and the door opens all the way. You can hear shh open. You can hear footsteps, and I'm just laying there thinking it's one of my kids, it's my mom. I'm in no mood to like turn over and see who it was yet. I'm thinking, all right, well, they're just gonna come over here with me because my kids were there, my mom was there, everyone was there. And I don't like, no one speaks because I was like, oh, I said, are you okay? I think is what I asked because I'm thinking I'm talking to my mom or one of my kids or whatever. And there wasn't an answer. So I kind of look a little bit and there's no one there. But the edge of the bed goes down, like dips
Whoa.
down.
Okay.
My brother was 6'3" and weighed a good 325 pounds. This is not a small man. He sat on my bed, on the edge of the bed, and the bed itself dipped down, and I could feel his hand right here. He's like, it's gonna be okay. Heard his voice, plain as day. Could smell him. Now, by the smell, it's not a pleasant smell at the time because he had just died, and like I said, it was bad. There was a very heavy smell of blood. Um, and underneath that was the aftershave that he wore all the time, but the most overpowering was the scent of blood. And I was scared and I was freaked out, but I knew I was awake. I'd been awake the whole time. My eyes were open. There was nobody there. I saw the bed dip down. I'm looking at the indent in my bed as I'm laying there, and he's sitting there. And I could feel him. I could feel him just like I can feel this. I could felt his hand. I felt his touch. My skin turned warm where his hand was. I could feel him. And he said, I'm gonna go check on mom. He stands up, bed rises up again, back to flat where it was. The footsteps, the little Costa rise, the door closes.
Yeah.
I heard footsteps down the hallway. My mother's bedroom door opened, and the next morning, she came to me and she's like, "Did you have something weird happen last night?" I just looked at her. I said, he came to visit you too. And she was like, yeah. And she started to cry. And then when my oldest daughter woke up, she was about 9, she said that Uncle Al came to visit her and told her that everything was going to be okay. This went on for the next 10, 11 years at my mom and dad's house.
Damn.
Years. Years.
So it was
And
something
there
that
were
everyone
multiple,
saw. Everyone had a similar story.
everyone has experienced him, everyone smelled him, everyone could see him at different times. It took a while before we could see him, but we could see the footsteps. We saw the doors moving, open and close. He sat in a rocking chair in the dining room a lot of the nights, and the rocking chair would move. And you would go out there and you could smell him. You would smell that blood smell before you saw or heard anything else. You knew he was there because that smell would overpower the room. And then as time went on, we began to see like a manifestation
Oh, okay.
of his outline. Like you couldn't see him like you can see me, but there were different times where you could definitely see his shape, different things. And
Okay.
then there are different pictures of him that we have on film where he had, during this one time, we had a birthday party for my mom and dad, and we had taken a picture of them in the dining room. So if I were to be there where they were, so imagine my mom over here and my dad here.
Hmm.
When we took the picture, my brother was leaned over them with his arms around them, and his face is right in between theirs. And it's clear. His face is very clear. His haircut, the glasses he wore, his shoulder width, his arms, and he's there like hovering over my mom and dad with his arms around him. This was
Wow.
back in 1999, so this picture would have been taken in 2000. Was taken on a camera. We didn't see the film until the next week, and it's very clear.
Now, when you say
So,
it's very clear, like, is it as clear as everybody else's picture, face in the picture, or is it a little
no, it's a
blurry?
little blurred, but not blurry. Like it's more like a very clear outline of his face and everything. So if you were to put like a I don't want to say like a bright spot or something over his face. It's very hard to explain because you can plainly see his face and everything, but it's more like if you were to take a negative of a picture and put it over that picture, his face is in like the negative relief, and then their picture is in the regular clear. It's almost like that. It's very weird, but it's a very clear outline of him. His face, like his eyes, you can see there's a smile on his face. You can see his glasses, his haircut. You can see his shoulders and
Whoa,
his arms.
whoa, that's a lot of detail there. In that, I mean, I guess shadow people, they can, I guess, project clothing and physical objects, how they were when they died, I suppose.
Spirits, yeah.
So in this story, since everyone saw that and they share the same story, it's like, what do you do with that? People, when they hear these stories, are like, well, it's anecdotal, and maybe they're just seeing things. Maybe someone might be really
Mm,
harsh, be like, is it the plot to like Ghost Dad? Or be like, I'm not sure if that's real.
yeah.
But it's I hear your story, and it doesn't sound like you're lying. It doesn't sound like you're exaggerating. It sounds real. Um, and I do appreciate you sharing that. And this is a difficult thing because, like, you could share your experience, and if someone's really a skeptic and closed off, not willing to even, I guess, consider, then they'll just dismiss it and all that. And it's like, well, then what was the point of sharing it? Just hear it out, and please consider it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stories like that. It's not just yours. Now, the problem is, though, there are people who come up with these stories, and they could be grifters. They could be faking it.
Yeah. Yeah. But This went on, this wasn't like a one-time deal. This went on for literally 10 to 12 years after he died.
Okay.
My mother saw him multiple times. I saw him almost every night. Saw, smelled, heard, felt, spoke with, whatever, almost every night for years. And I moved home the night, well, basically that night that he died. I spent another 6 months, almost a year at home again. And then when I moved out, I had my own encounters with him after that because he was with me a lot of that time as well. He was able to go where we were and go check on any one of us that he wanted to. But these were things that were witnessed by members out by other people outside of our household. These things were witnessed by friends of my mom and dad, like longtime friends of theirs, outside friends of ours. It wasn't just an isolated incident to the family. This was occurring within the home, and other people could smell him. They could smell the smell. They would hear different things that he would do. They would see the different things move, and they would be like, "Did you see that chair move?" Or like, "What is that smell?" And because that heavy blood smell lasted for a good 2 or 3 years, and then it began to fade to just mostly like his aftershave type of smell. But this went on for a long time and was witnessed by many of us, not just immediate, like not just my mom and dad and my kids. So,
I that story is really good, and I believe you. I think you did see something. I think when you shared that other people saw that and felt his presence, that you're being genuine there. Um,
yeah.
I I said before you were sharing your story that I think there might be a reason why I can't see them, and it's kind of like maybe I don't want to see them really. Maybe deep down, subconsciously, it's like I don't really want to see them because I may not be able to handle it. But I kind of think it's something more. This is gonna get kind of weird. Okay, I don't know how to really explain it or describe it. I'm kind of bad on that. Like I dabbled in Wiccan stuff before, quite a bit, actually. But it was like years ago. And during that, I kind of felt like there was like this presence kind of guiding me, and that same presence is still kind of around, and it doesn't want me to see it for some reason. And like, it's like when I try to see it, it's like it protects me. That's why it sounds so goofy. And chat's gonna like bust my balls and call me all sorts of names or whatever. That's why I lit the incense there. It may not mean anything, it may not do anything, but supposedly it's supposed to help with I guess protection. I don't know if it's really going to do anything. I don't really know, Candace, about some of the stuff dabbled in before, but that's where I'm at with it. That's where I'm at. Does that make sense, or is that just a bunch of words salad that I just gave you? Was that word vomit?
Yeah, no, it makes sense because if you were dabbling in Wiccan stuff, I'm gonna assume you were dabbling on the right hand path, not the left hand path.
What do you mean,
And
like? Wait. You mean like the evil path?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I flirt with like. Well, I don't think I've really done anything demonic. I mean, I wear like. I do sometimes for the show wear like the satanic pentagram, but
Yeah.
I never really dabbled into that stuff. I
Oh,
was
Wiccan,
really
the
more
first rule of
pure.
Wiccan is to do no harm, right?
Right, do no
So
harm.
that's
So
right. That is the first law of Wiccan. So if you were dabbling in the left-hand path, you were not dabbling in straight
no. I
Wiccan.
wasn't doing that stuff. I wasn't doing that stuff. I wasn't
But
doing any
doesn't
harm to
make sense,
anybody.
yeah, because if you were and you had been able to communicate somewhat with the spirit world, whether you heard a physical answer or whether you perceived one, like more of a spiritual answer or a spiritual presence or a guide, like you said, then they absolutely could be there for a reason, and it could very well be for protection. Or if you were trying to call a spirit guide to you, then maybe someone answered you.
Maybe.
Um, Protection is good. I wouldn't necessarily call it a wrong thing. And if you feel like it's protecting you and you don't feel a sense of fear or evil from it whenever you feel that, then that's probably a good thing too. And there probably is a reason why it's there.
Okay. So,
Sort of like a guardian angel.
yeah, kind of guardian spirit
What's that?
sort of thing. And it's just a precaution. And, it may not mean much, but I found some ways things just kind of, I kind of found through my journey that it does kind of make sense. It does kind of work, but it doesn't work the way people think it does. Like, it's not like the whole, Wiccan spells stuff. And it's not like it just instantly conjures something. It's more subtle. It's more like behind the scenes sort of.
Depends on what you know.
I guess so. I guess I'm a level 1 mage. But
Number one.
level 1.
Number one.
Well, this was a good talk. Oh, we didn't get into your favorite horror movie. We didn't do that. But this was a good chat, Candace. Definitely have to bring you back on to talk more about horror related things, and who knows, maybe other spiritual things as well. It'd be kind of cool. I kind of like this. I really like this. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me and with the maybe the 6 live viewers, and then other people will see it afterwards, and especially on the podcast feed and all that. So,
Okay.
thank you. And
Thanks.
anything you want to say before we wrap up?
Thanks for inviting me on. It was fun. If anybody wants to know anything about me, they can find me on my website, Uncomfortably Dark, because I'm uncomfortable all the time and I write about dark stuff. So, easy name, Uncomfortably Dark, and all my books, links, and all that are out there. So,
Okay, sounds good. And the chat's a great chat interaction. Deadman. I know there wasn't much. You guys were having another conversation about some drama stuff with Euros. I know nothing about that. Drama free, kind of moving on drama free. I used to dabble in internet drama that doesn't make any sense, Candace. Like little, small YouTubers will like have beef with one another or whatever, but then it gets all weird. You used to do that. By used to, I mean like literally like I stopped doing this like weeks ago. So it's turning a new leaf. Actually, 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 actually.
Okay.
So
Well,
anyway,
congrats on your new leaf.
thank you. I know.
You're welcome.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. You guys take it easy and have a good one. Have a good one.